So you just see how you can take his names and his titles and it can be a blessing to you. So. Okay, we're going to look more about the emotional life of Jesus and then try to look at and understand how he feels about the emotions that he has given us. Now remember, we need to recall that feelings are caused by thoughts. So we'll look at his emotions that are described there, but we'll also see if we can figure out what his thoughts were. And then what did he do about it in his actions. So if you want to make a little chart again like we did last week. So turn to the first one, if you're not already, John 13. Read 18 through 21. Looking for his emotions first, and then to see if you can figure out what he might have been thinking and what action did he take. What did he do? Okay, what are his emotions? Did you find some of those? Okay, and it all depends on your translation. This translation says trouble in the spirit. Anybody else have different words to describe what he was feeling?
He was disturbed and agitated.
Okay, disturbed. I won't do this for everything, but just to show you how you ought to mark this on your chart. Is disturbed, agitated. Somebody else has some.
I think he was sad.
I think so too. It's sad. Anybody's translation have any other words?
Solemn.
Solemn.
Mine says grieved.
Okay, he was grieved. Most of these are described in verse 21. These are not feelings that you like, are they? But when we have them, the first thing we need to stop and think about if we want to change them. I mean, I want to get rid of those as soon as possible, don't you? When they hit me. What could he possibly have been thinking that caused this?
Betrayal.
He was thinking about what was just about to happen when he was going to be betrayed. Now, a lot of times when we're betrayed, we don't know it's going to happen until it happens, right? But he knew ahead of time that he was going to be betrayed. And so this is what he was going to be betrayed by. Judas. Okay, so this is what he was thinking. What did he do as a result of this? Always look at the action too. What did Jesus do? What did he do?
He was as the first person.
Okay, say that a little bit louder so I can get on the camera.
He served him first as the.
I think that's interesting. Yeah. What else you see here in 18 through 21 that he did?
He warned them that what was coming.
Okay, so he did not hide this at all. He brought it out in the open. Now this is an important thing that we're going to see all through here. He did not try to hide how he was feeling. And he brought it out in view. See, a lot of times when we're feeling these things, we just don't want to mention it, right? We don't want to do anything about it. we're going to see later as we come through here some healthy ways to handle our feelings, whatever they are. And so he is doing some action. He is actually, he's continuing to love this one who's going to betray him, isn't he? What's he doing? He's teaching. Do you see that? So I'm going to write it all down because it just takes time. But
You know, I think I would have, if I would have been Judas, I would have been surprised that Jesus knew it. And maybe, hopefully I'd have said, okay, I won't do that.
yeah, I know it changed your mind, you know. But
He's preparing him for what's to come.
okay, so he is concerned about his disciples, what's going to happen. He's teaching them, he's warning them, he's preparing them. And so, now, let me just point this out with us. We need to see what we can learn for us. Isn't it easy to begin focusing on yourself when you have these kind of feelings? Was he focusing on himself in this passage? No. And so these are just some tips that we need to learn on how he handled, especially negative ones, but even positive ones. So these are things that we're going to kind of learn for us. I don't want our Bible studies ever just to be factual. I want them to be practical. You know, so how's this going to help me? Because it's real easy for me just to withdraw into my own shell when I have these, isn't it? And that's not what he did. So I want you to keep in mind. Another word I had in my translation was agitated. Go ahead and put that. Oh, you got agitated. Okay. This is a problem. This is a problem. All right, let's look at Mark 14. So we want to see his emotional life, what we can learn from it for us, and then we're going to see what the Scripture says about it. And I have an interesting little handout to give you in just a moment. So Mark 14, 32 through 34. Okay, what's he feeling here?
Distress and trouble.
How distressed?
Deeply distressed. Deeply.
You know, I can be distressed. There are degrees of distressedness. I just made that up, I think. I can be, a mosquito can be flying around me and I can be distressed about it. But I can also, you know, see someone who is dying of cancer and be distressed. You see the word distressed. The writer wanted to say, this is not a minor distressment. Okay? He's deeply distressed. He quotes Jesus as saying, and he's troubled. Okay, so he's troubled. Are any of you just thrilled to death when you have those feelings? No, I want to do something about it. Well, what could he have been thinking that caused this deeply distressed and trouble?
I was thinking about what was coming.
What is coming?
Crucifixion.
Crucifixion.
I think he will be separated from God at that time.
Yeah, it's not even just a physical death that he's distressed about, but the separation from God. So this causes deep distress and trouble. Now, isn't it interesting that in both of these cases he's thinking about the future? Well, I think isn't he the same guy that said, don't be concerned about the future? Take it one day at a time?
Yeah, but he knew exactly what was fixing to happen. He needed to get.
With us, we imagine the future and we worry about what might happen and stuff. It's entirely different. I mean, if he tells us something that's going to occur in the future, it's perfectly legitimate to be this deeply distressed and troubled about it. So don't give yourself a problem about that. But what he did about it was very important. That's one of the key things I want us to see. Is not so much that we have the feelings, but what we do with them. You know, now we need to guard our thought life as much as possible because that gets us in a lot of trouble. Especially two games. What if and if only. Y'all ever play those games? What if and if only. Those are two little things that should never be in our vocabulary. What if this happens? Or what if that happens? Or what if I, that's going over to the future, imagining all kinds of, if only I had done that, if only I had said, that is living in the past. See, both of those are dangerous situations. Now, I need to learn from the past, and I need to plan for the future, but that's not what he's talking about. So, but the main thing is, watch what's going on here. Stinking thinking, not allowed. You ever have any of that? Oh, and you get out your little hammer, and you bop that stinking thought in the head. Out of here. Okay. But what we do is so important. Now we can just sit down and, oh, I'm just so upset, I'm so stressed. And we get ourselves in a bigger mess. What did he do with his deeply distressed and troubled?
He prayed. He kept praying.
Just look first of all. Yeah, before I even got that far, because I didn't even give you that in the passage. But in verses 32 through 34, just that little bit, what did he do there? Now we know he went before the Father, he anguished in prayer, he interceded. But in 32 through 34, I don't want you to overlook some keys right there. What did he do? He verbalized how he was feeling. Now that is very important. Do you know that feelings, I've got a whole study on it sometime. Maybe I'll give you something to read if we don't get to do it here as Bible study. But on the role of feelings and what to do with them, you don't save them up, you don't freeze them, you don't keep them in your freezer and pull them out, whatever. But they have to be ventilated. They have to be expressed. They have to be dealt with. And how we do that in healthy ways is a whole study on itself. But verbalizing, I am feeling lonely. I am feeling discouraged. I'm feeling trouble, whatever. So he's verbalizing it. But who is he verbalizing it to?
His disciples.
Those of his inner circle, not to the whole crowd. I don't remember him ever saying to the whole crowd, boy, am I ever troubled over what's going on in this city. Now, when he walked over Jerusalem, the whole city didn't know he was up there weeping over Jerusalem. We need to be careful who we share our feelings with. But notice the request that he made. What request did he make in verse 32?
Stay there and keep watch.
And I noticed that he does not ask them to pray on over it. He asked them to pray, but it's not that he asked them to pray that they not fall. I guess he was afraid if he asked them to pray for him, they'd pray that he didn't have to be crucified.
Oh, sure, whatever. But pray for yourself. He's saying why to pray, because you're going to fall into temptation if you don't. It's interesting, he says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch. I like the sit here, stay here. Do you know what I see there? I see the fact that he needed support when he was going through this. Friends, sometimes all we need is a friend to sit there with us. And I need to ask him, would you sit here with me? You don't have to say anything. That's sometimes the best ministry we can do. It's just it's called a ministry of presence. Jesus needed a ministry of presence. Sit here. Very, very important lesson for us to learn. He was overwhelmed with grief, one of the translations says, so that it's almost killing me.
And
Now-
ask them to keep awake and watch.
He warns them. You know, he's still concerned about them. Now remember, we can have all these, but we still don't become inverted. We're still concerned about others. Now we can just say, I need you, friend. I need your prayers. I need your love. I need you to be here with me. I need you to go with me. Do you understand? And we ought to be able to do that for one another. And I really believe, one of the things I love about this group is, I believe we can do that for each other. And I think we do that for each other. But it's important to realize that that's a strong ministry. It doesn't matter if we don't know what to say. He didn't say, sit here and just talk to me. You know, there's some people need you to talk to. But he said, just sit here. Watch. You know, be with me. All right, let's look at Luke 10. Luke 10. Look at verse 21. I like this motion better. Do you? I like this one better. What's he feeling here?
Joy.
How much?
Full.
He's full of it. Not just a little bit. Where did he get his joy?
Holy Spirit.
Why would we get ours? Okay. What do you think he was thinking about? If you look back just a little bit, why do you think this showed up right in the middle of this passage, that he was full of joy? And what did he do? See if you can... Why do you think? Back up a little bit and see, what might he have been thinking?
He had sent his early disciples out, and then he came back just so excited because it was true. They realized we can do things in your name.
Right. Then right in the middle of it, it's interesting that he tells them, watch what you're joyful about. Did you notice that? You know, I've seen a lot of, I don't know about you, but sometimes I see more joy, happiness, enthusiasm, at a ball game than I do at a church. You don't get too excited at church, people think you're holy roller. Yeah. Be careful, you know about that. Right? I can act like a crazy nut at the ball game, but I gotta be real quiet in church, you know what? He's telling them the difference in what they should be happy about. See, did you notice that? Look at 19 and 20. He's saying, be sure that you're being joyful about the right things. He put a however right there in the middle. He says, yeah, I expect you to be excited that what you can do for me, you know, in the ministry and stuff. But, what should your joy be over?
Your name's written.
Rejoice that you belong to me, not what you're doing for me. That is a powerful truth there. Powerful truth. Rejoice that you belong to me. Not just that you are serving me successfully. Well, then it says that Jesus is full of the Holy Spirit and full of joy. And what does he do? We've got to get up something here on an action thing. What does he do when he's full of joy? He praises. Now, isn't that the best thing to do? We can hoop and holler all we want to, but let's hoop and holler toward God. He rejoices. He praises Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you've hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to your little children. Yes, Father, this was your good pleasure. So just be careful. It's very tempting at times when we're feeling joyful to tell other people and forget to tell him. That's a real temptation. Oh man, I just felt the presence of the Lord. This is just wonderful. Hallelujah. The great here being in church. Oh, what a wonderful song that was. Oh, choir, y'all did a great job. Preacher did a wonderful sermon. And God said, psst. Oh yeah, thank you, Lord. Okay, look at Luke 22. Look at Luke 22, 14 through 16. This one is implied. It's not stated, so you're going to have to figure it out by just looking at the scene. What is Jesus feeling in 14 through 16? Well, physically he probably was, but emotionally, what's he feeling, do you think?
A little bit sad.
His last meal was about to take on him.
Some emotion there in 15, isn't it? I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. What kind of emotions are in that verse? Nostalgia,
Probably kind of anxious. He knows what's coming up.
some anxiety, probably love for them, appreciation for them. You know, I just want to spend this time with you. I want to have the Passover with you. Some need for support, maybe. So this is quite an emotional verse. You know, you just have to get down in there and.
He had conflict in their emotions.
Oh, sure it is. I've got to do this, and I want to do this. This is the Father's will, but I'd rather stay with you. You know, eat the Passover with you. Okay, what did he do? Because we know what he was thinking for him to have these feelings. What was his action? He told them how he was feeling. Now let me just stop here and ask you this question. Do you know some people, maybe even in your home, that have a hard time telling you how they're feeling, even though you can see how they're feeling?
Yes.
And their actions are showing. They shut the door. Like that, you know. And it's, are you mad? No, I'm not mad. I just wondered if you'd ever had any of those.
Yeah.
I can tell how my little pups are feeling sometimes.
I knew I was leaving today.
Yeah, all they do is they can mope around and everything, and they can read them. But it's really interesting. Some people never say how they're feeling. Absolutely. Sometimes it's because they were brought up in families that didn't let you say how you were feeling. Didn't let you feel, you know. So I want you to remember that he keeps on saying how he's feeling. That's very, 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 very important. Whether it's a good feeling or bad feeling. Now, sometimes we don't mind saying if we're feeling great. Yes, I feel great. But if you feel terrible, boy, I feel depressed. You know, other people have a lot of, are easy to say they're negative feelings, but you never hear them say they're feeling positively, right? Okay.
I think it's kind of important too that we remember not to tell them you shouldn't feel this way.
Oh, surely people aren't doing that. Or how about one even deeper? I tell myself I shouldn't be feeling it. See, that's another thing I need to realize, that feelings in themselves are not wrong. They are caused by thoughts or experiences. And what I do with them is important. But I need to recognize them, but I need to know how, if I don't like them, to get rid of them. But there's nothing wrong with feelings. How many times do you say, well, I shouldn't feel this way. I'm a Christian. No, but I do feel this way. But I need to find out why I feel this way and what to do about it. So, question or comment?
The International Mission Board, in their wisdom, requires the missionaries to have accountability partners. And my daughter has had the same accountability partner for a long time.
Okay.
And they get together at least once a week and
Good.
share their feelings
Good.
and pray.
Good.
And I think that's a concept that we as Christians in our churches, we're missing a lot of
I agree.
blessings because we don't have an accountability partner.
I agree.
I think that's the way we grow, one of the ways we grow.
I agree too.
But anyway,
I
just
agree.
food for
No,
thought.
I think you're absolutely right. You know, so unfortunately, well, this whole thing of feelings isn't, like I say, maybe another whole topic we can do sometime. But let's go on. Let's look at Mark 10. Mark 10, 17 through 21. Jesus has come upon some people who are arguing. And he asked, "What are y'all arguing about?" And this man answers, "Teacher, I brought you my son who's possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not." Okay.
Are you on Mark 10?
I thought I was in Mark 10. Am I not? Maybe I'm in Mark 9.
That's a good verse.
That's another one. That is a good one. Let's go there first. Absolutely. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's do, it's next. But actually, Mark 9's got a couple things in it. But while we're there, in verse 19, what was his feelings, do you think? Thank you for keeping me straight.
Are you in chapter 10?
I'm in chapter 9, I believe.
We're in chapter 10.
I'm sorry, come over to chapter 9. We'll go back to chapter 10, just a minute. Okay. Look up chapter 9.
36 to 37. What verse?
Look at verse 19. He's just come upon an argument, and the guy shares that his son is having trouble, and the disciples can't do anything about it. And look at Jesus' reaction in verse 19. Yeah, I would say that was exasperated. That's a good one. You know the feelings you see in there?
Aggravated.
Huh?
Aggravated.
Oh yeah, probably a little aggravated, a little frustrated, a little disappointed, maybe ashamed. His disciples are. Huh? Well, it's he said, "Boy, y'all about the last straw." I think it's very interesting. So what did Jesus do? You already know the answer, but look at 20 through 22 first of all. What did Jesus do? He got in the middle of the problem, decided that needed to talk with the boy's father. He already knew the information. It's not like he's having to get the information. But he's wanting to teach the father some things, and look at verse 22. He has often been thrown into the fire, like the demon wants to kill him. Notice this, if you can do anything. Now the man is desperate. If you can do it, Jesus said it. The man said, if you can do anything. Now how do they think that struck Jesus? If I can do anything? Remember, I think it was last week we saw
Yes.
the, one of the blind men saying, if you're willing, the leper, if you're willing, you can make me clean. I think before Jesus could have just immediately turned around and said, poof. But I think he wanted to teach the Father some things first. Don't you think? And Jesus said in verse 23, if you can, Jesus said, everything is possible for him who believes. So he's trying to work on the guy's faith too.
Well, I think we can understand why the guy, if these 12 disciples couldn't heal him, I can understand why he might
Yeah.
wonder if anybody can.
Absolutely. These are supposed to be the ones who can fix everything, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, it's an interesting story that maybe we're supposed to get in there because I did it by mistake. But anyway, let's stay in that chapter a minute and look at verse 36 and 37. This is when, well, look at what he says in 35. Sitting down among them, the disciples, by the way, have just argued about who was the greatest disciple among them. And Jesus called the 12 and said, if anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last and the servant of all. So he took a little child as an object lesson and had him stand among them, and taking him in his arms, he said to them, whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. Whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me. So any emotions in verse 36 and 35? Any emotions? They're implied, they're not stated. What are they? What are some? What do you think he's thinking in 35? Speak up so the camera can pick up your voice. What's he thinking of, what's he feeling in 35?
He's probably saying, you still don't get it.
Probably still a little frustrated, guys. If anyone wants to be first, what do you think he's feeling in 36?
He said, I'll show you. I think he's feeling a lot of love for these children.
What else do you think he's thinking as he takes this little child in his arms?
Love.
I say love and tenderness, gentleness, and so forth. So just want you to see that Jesus has a rich emotional life. We need to not forget that. No, we really don't. We don't need to just keep him in the factual realm. He's the creator. He knows all this, but he does really care. He really does care and loves us. Okay, back to Mark 10, where I left you off and left you and went out on my own little trip. Look at Mark 10, 17 through 21. The incidents of the rich young ruler. What kind of emotions did you see in there?
Sadness.
Sadness?
A little
And
more
love.
aggravation too.
Huh?
A little more aggravation.
You think?
I think, yes, because this is a man that had training and had knowledge, and yet he's looking for something that he wants from Jesus that he doesn't think he's getting.
Yeah. I think all of those. Any other feelings you think they're having? He's having? Okay, what did he do about his feelings? What did he do?
No.
He addressed the issue.
And he justifies himself because he knows all the commandments and he can recite them off easily.
So what did Jesus do? He hit the heart of the matter, didn't he?
Put actions behind your words.
Yep. All right, let's look at John 16. We want to make sure we have time for the last segment here. But I want to challenge you. I hope you're doing this more, but whenever you're reading, especially in the Gospels, that you try to step into the emotions that are going on in the stories. It really does make a difference. John 16, 32 and 33. What's 31 as a feeling, a strong feeling, do you think?
Hallelujah, he said.
Yeah, hallelujah, that's a hallelujah feeling. You mean you got it, you know, probably a little bit of excitement there. What do you think he's feeling in 32 and 33?
I think there's some sadness and yet there's victory about what's to happen to the disciples.
Sadness, a little anticipation of loneliness. I'm alone, but yet I'm not alone. That reminds me of the song by Johnny Erickson Tyler that we played a couple of weeks ago. Concern for his disciples, you see.
And he's trying to encourage them too.
Yeah, he's definitely an encourager. Okay.
I think he really felt the Father's love at that time.
Yeah, I do too. My Father's with me. I'm really not alone. You know, that's really good. Okay. Okay, we need to spend the last part of our session talking about what Jesus says about the role of emotions in our lives. We can learn from him from these examples, but there are some things that I think we need to look at. Then I'm going to give you what I call a feeling wheel that I discovered many years ago that's very, very helpful. Look at John 15, 9 through 12. Some suggestions Jesus says about emotions in our lives. What does he recommend? What is the two major, probably the two major emotions that he's addressing here in these chapters? Love and what's the other one? Because that's not an emotion, that's an action. Joy. Okay. I think those are the emotions, unless you see some other ones. Okay, love is an action as well as a feeling, you know. So is joy. But what does he suggest about these two emotions? They need to be prominent. Now, do you remember the fruit of the Spirit? Do you need to look at them again? Why don't we? Because I'm going to ask you a question about them anyway. Turn over to Galatians, keep your finger here. Turn over to Galatians 5, 22 and 23. Galatians 5, 22 and 23. Find the 9 pieces of fruit. Galatians 5, 22 and 23. And which ones of those are feelings? Just take a look at them. Which one? No, they're also fruit, which implies action, but there's feelings, especially behind some of them. But which ones are describing feelings? Do you think?
First three.
All of them.
Especially the first three.
Is patience a feeling?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel impatient?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kindness.
Yeah.
You can act kindly and not feel kindly, but if you can feel kindly, you're going to act kindly. The kindness. Gentleness. Do you ever feel ungentle? That's aggravation, in case you didn't know. You know. Faithfulness, or a person can feel faithful, act faithful. So they got actions and feelings in them. Self-control. You ever feel out of control? Okay, so we got a package of feelings here, do we not? Look at the first two, and then go back to the passage in John. Very interesting. that he picked those two for this passage discussion, isn't it? Now he says, I want you to have these. They come from the Spirit. But I've given some hows and whys in this passage. Can you figure out any hows and whys about these two feelings in this passage? Look there. Any how? How do I do it? Why do I do it? In here? Okay. Abiding in him, and we've talked about that before. If you didn't get that long definition, I can give it to you sometime. It's basically to have nothing between me, nothing between anybody else, and I'm depending upon him and his Spirit. What am I to do with this love that I have, besides enjoy it myself? Share it with other people. Okay, what about the joy? Any instructions on joy?
Keep his commandments, so our joy will, so his joy will remain in us and be complete.
He says, I want it to remain. By the way, you know that peace and joy and some of those are clearly spoken in the scriptures of stuff. If it got away from you, you chase it till you get it back. You don't settle for not having these. Do you realize that? I think we just say, oh, well, I've just had those so long, they just feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable to me. I want these other ones. Okay? All right. We got to go on. Look at John 10:10. John 10:10. Because I want to give you this handout and show you some interesting things about it. They give you a little present at the end. What's he talking about here?
The abundant life. Abundant eternal life.
Okay, I want you to have life to the full. And I want your emotions to overflow with the good stuff. Now, have you ever had a bad emotion overflow? And your friends and relatives can tell me about it. That's not what he wants to be overflowing. And he says, I came to give you something else. Now, warning in verse 10 is, you have an enemy who is out to steal your fruit. Don't let him steal your fruit. That's where the armor of God comes in, doesn't it? Okay, look at John 7. Jesus says, I want the positive feelings to be manifested in your life, not the negative ones. John 7:38 and 39 gives us the clue for how to allow this fruit to overflow. What are the instructions? 30. Well, look, 37 through 39. Go ahead and add 37 to it. Okay, we're talking about emotions. If anyone is ever thirsty, are you ever thirsty for the fruit of the Spirit? Okay, what should you do according to verse 37?
Come to him. Open your Bible.
I think we fail to tap into the Holy Spirit.
Very definitely we do.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Dumbbell. We have an empty bucket. And we go around with an empty bucket. And we think, well, I fit right in. Everybody else's bucket's empty too. And the Lord said, you don't have to have an empty bucket. I put a river inside of you. What's the problem?
We don't take advantage of it.
We do not believe. Isn't that the key in verse 38? Whoever believes, trusts, clings to, relies on, goes to the one who is our Savior. Not just believing for salvation, but believing for love, believing for joy, believing for peace. Lord, I need peace. You gave me peace. I need some. My bucket just ran out. He says, okay, just stay here a moment, focus on me, and believe, and your heart will be filled with peace. Now you got to keep the junk out of it. If I got other stuff in my glass, and I says, oh, I got this is okay because I drink it, you know. But let's say it's dirty, got little bugs and ants and leaves, and oh, there's a roach floating around in there. And I come and I said, please get me some more. He said, well, do you want me to dump out that other stuff? I said, no, I got a little room, yeah. Just go ahead and put the good stuff in the top. He says, no, I don't put good stuff in the top. You dump that out first. That's called repentance and cleansing. He says, when you remove the blocks, then out of you shall flow rivers of living water. And you'll be a blessing to other people, and you'll be a blessing to yourself. So that sounds good to me. So why don't we do it? Dumbville? It is. Okay, I want to show you something very interesting. I'm going to give you some of these. Just take one and pass it. Pass it around at your table. Pass it. Then some over there to that table too. And then do remind me, I'll send you one of these mails. I've got enough, but I'm not doing good at sharing them. So take one and pass it around. There's enough there for everybody. If your table got extra, just raise your hand and I'll come and get it, pass it over to the other table. Anybody got any extras? Yeah. Give me some extras, okay? Here's some extras. Sorry. Okay. Okay, there's some extras there. Anybody else got any extras? All right. Look at the center of it first. The center emotions. Now this was put together by a psychologist, but it's got some great information that will help us. In the middle, and I'll send you one day. I'm sorry I didn't think about it this week. There are some key emotions: sad, mad, scared, joyful, powerful, and peaceful. So take the mad one, okay, just to show you what this is like. You take the mad, I'll show her, and go out and you'll see other words that are descriptive, and you would probably not say they're mad, but the root of it is mad. So just look at some of the descriptions out from mad. Would you think that guilty, if I had said, is guilty a description of mad, you'd probably say, no, it's guilty. But do you know that guilty is mad at yourself for doing something you shouldn't have done? Do you realize that? Now hurt. Well, hurt just doesn't seem like that ought to fit under mad.
Yes, it does.
Let me tell you something real important. When men are hurt, they express it by anger. When women are mad, they express it as hurt. It's real interesting in those two dynamics. So I didn't run that Bible. So when you are hurt, Yeah, it's very interesting, the difference between men and women on this, but
Well, I've been mad before, and hurt.
yeah, but see, the mad can be, the hurt can be, you know, I am mad that you hurt me. Do you see what I'm saying? But these are categories of feelings, but you go down to the root one. Now look at sad, because we can all say I've been sad at times, but look at how sad can manifest itself in your life. Now, are there any on there that surprise you? That little sad?
Bored.
You're sad that nothing exciting's happening. See, it's very interesting. You can ponder upon this if you want to, but yeah. Question? Okay. Anyway, the major benefit of something like this is that sometimes a feeling that I'm having, I need to look and see what is really the root feeling of that. That's one thing I need to do. Secondly, it's usually the root feeling that I need to verbalize or ventilate if I'm going to get relief. Now, many times we just tend to stuff our feelings instead of ventilating them, and they collect. For instance, you've experienced and seen other people experience what we call as the last straw. Well, and it can be something really little. Bing, and just, well, what made them fly, you know, right? Or something can happen and your emotions are way out of, and so you're crying like crazy and it just was over. Or you can have started out laughing and wind up crying. Have you ever done that? Those are very, very close sometimes. You can be laughing so hard you're crying, and then you're crying. You know, you feel really sad, your body's all messed up. What are you doing? Laughing or crying? I don't know. We just need to realize that our feelings have got to be ventilated. If I collect them sometime down the road, and some of us collected them for a whole lifetime, then something can, and whoa, I shouldn't have been crying that hard. What did I not ventilate years ago? I'm going to give you one example and then we're going to close. My father was brought up in a family of 8 kids. He was the oldest son. His dad, unfortunately, was an alcoholic who beat his mother. And my father, after one incident, he was about 13, my dad was, and he said to his dad, "If you ever do that again to my mom, I'm going to kill you." And so it so startled the dad, he abandoned the whole family. All right, so here's a little 13-year-old, and he now is in charge of the family, you know, the oldest son. Well, fast forward, and he's now 75. Okay, 13, 75. He's in my home. I have built onto my home at the time, and he and my mother were living there. And one evening we were watching TV together in their little apartment that we built on. And we were watching The Burning Bed. Have any of y'all ever seen that movie? It's a movie where the guy beats his wife so much that she sets him on fire while he's asleep, kills him. Well, during the scene where he is beating the wife, I just glance over, and my father is weeping. My dad never cried. I don't ever remember seeing him cry up before that time. He was sobbing. and it's just dawned on me. That movie went all the way back to his childhood. He had stuffed all of those feelings, and that was the trigger that brought it up. Now, all that is to say, we can collect these feelings for years and years, especially the volatile ones, and then something happened that triggered it, and the whole freezer door opens and it all falls out there on the floor. All that is to say, feelings are powerful, and feelings need to be under the control of God's Spirit, and feelings need to be ventilated or they hurt us. So whenever you are feeling any of these, that's where your accountability partner, your close friends, you can just say, I am feeling afraid and I do not know why. And you can tell the Lord that. I'm feeling afraid. You ventilate to Him all the time, by the way. All kinds. You know, I'm mad, Lord, I'm going to chop their heads off. Whatever. He can handle it. You know, some people can't handle it. But. So I'm just saying that to be a healthy individual, we need to learn how to ventilate our feelings. And sometimes we need professional help to be able to do that because we have just kept it all piled up for a long time, and it's hurting us. And it's hurting us in a lot of ways. But anyway, I'm going to close with prayer, then I'll come around and give you a little presents. Don't run off. And I look forward to when we come back, and let's pray for one another, okay? Lord, thank you for teaching us, for blessing us, for your ministry to us. Lord, for just showing us a little bit more of your heart and who you are and how much you care for us. I pray, Lord, for these my friends in these days and weeks ahead while we're apart. I pray that you would bless them, keep them safe, minister to them, Lord, and the concerns that come up in their hearts. Help us to pray for one another, Lord, love one another, and support one another on the journey. So thank you again for blessing us. We look forward when we assemble again, Lord, in the future, to be able to study your word and to praise you together. In Jesus' name, amen.